Welcome back to A Moment in History. I'm Seth Udinsky. In the United States, there are several geographical landmarks that provide the boundary markers for states and regions. One of these is a massive mountain range that runs like a backbone north to south through the eastern section of the nation. Now, it's not as large as its western cousin, the Rockies, but this mountain range did play a critical role in the development of American state boundaries in the first 100 years of the nation's existence. Running from the state of Maine all the way through the deep south is the Appalachian Mountains. Now, this mountain range runs almost parallel to the eastern seaboard, though it is a considerable several hundred miles inland from the Atlantic coast. The mountain range stretches just under 2,000 miles, running through the following states. That would be Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, parts of South Carolina, Georgia, Kentucky, Tennessee, and finally ending in northern Alabama. Now, some of the more famous regions of this mountain range include the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia and West Virginia, the Smokies in Tennessee, and the Catskills up in New York, which of course is the setting for Washington Irving's classic tale Rip Van Winkle. Now, in history, the Appalachians played a key role in the development and state structure of the United States. In the colonial and revolutionary days in the 1700s, the mountains provided the westernmost boundary of the young nation until the westward expansion began in the early 1800s. The mountains then provided the easternmost boundary of what would become known as the Midwestern region of the country, which extended from the Appalachians in the east to the Mississippi River in the west. Now, during the Civil War, the Appalachians became, at least in Virginia, a visible dividing line between the ideologies of the North and the South, while also serving as the backdrop for numerous battles. For example, in 1863, during the Battle of Gettysburg in Pennsylvania, the Confederate Army often used the Appalachian skyline, which sat some 10 miles away in the western distance from the little Pennsylvania hamlet, as their inspiration to keep fighting, knowing their home was just beyond those peaks in Virginia. While no doubt inspiring for the rebels, it did not result in victory at Gettysburg. Now, another loss came just before Gettysburg, and it resulted in the birth of an entirely new state, with a state line based on the Appalachian Mountains. At this time, Virginia encompassed all of modern-day Virginia as well as the state of West Virginia. But in the June of 1863, the citizens of the northwesternmost part of the state seceded from their own state over the question of slavery. West Virginia joined the Union in the summer of 1863, and after a lengthy Supreme Court battle that outlasted the duration of the war by several years, Virginia argued in vain that West Virginia could not legally separate, and the state of West Virginia was born. It has been known thereafter as a northern state, unlike its western counterpart along the Appalachian Mountains. Thanks so much for joining me once again for A Moment in History.